So, I'm not sure why I do this or why I feel it's appropriate, how timing has anything to do with it, but it's Thanksgiving morning, 2019, and yesterday was Rachel's birthday. I think I started to the first half of a podcast I was trying to do based on Thanksgiving, maybe the day before yesterday. And I said I was going to continue on it, and I never did. But I meant to. So I'm just going to make this one brief. I would have posted a podcast yesterday because it was Rachel's birthday. But yeah, I didn't because, man, I don't know. If you're not familiar with, I don't know. I think most people do have something in their life that's very, I don't know, it's maybe their big pain. But there's a big difference between having there's two different kinds of large scale painful things in people's life, I think. And the first of which is existential. It's I think as you get older, I could be wrong, but I think for a lot of people, as you get older, depending on what you've accomplished in your life and career-wise and everything, I know for me, and I've talked to some others, that this is the case for them too, in some way, shape, or form, that there is an underlying pain, and it's fear. It's an underlying fear of what's going to happen in the future. Whether it's that you can't retire, or you won't be able to retire successfully, or that you have a kid who is troubled, and you're worrying about something like an underlying fear that at any moment something terrible is going to happen. Mine isn't so much that something terrible is going to happen, like a unhealthy fear. It's just the knowledge, knowing how fleeting life is, and that I will have to face loss again. It scares me quite a bit. And I think there's some things I've been doing in my life that have made me feel a little bit better about my situation. Not so much career-wise, no, but as far as meaning goes, I've found a way to share some of the things I do, and craft-wise, and I've been selling it. I'm actually fairly proud of the stuff that I've been making. I think I've always been making things, not always, but it's always been my thing, my favorite thing, drawing something, or I've always felt like I could contribute in some way, artistically, but I've never felt that anything that I did was worth putting a money value on it. And now, having found leathercraft and things like that, now I finally made something that I thought, hey, I would buy this. It's useful art, it's been great. But I do always have this underlying fear of loss from my parents in the future, and I think what makes that a little bit easier to comprehend or think about or manage is was having Rachel around was helpful. I felt like yes, of course I'm going to experience loss, and my parents won't be here forever, but at least I'll have Rachel. And I think that's the natural progression for most people. I think maybe there is a reason why our society is set up the way it is, as far as finding someone you love and marrying them and all that. I used to think was kind of hogwash. Like I felt like it was not my agenda, or maybe an agenda that was imposed upon me and the rest of society. But as you get older, I think you understand why there's a method to the way some people live. And if you're close to your parents, then losing them is awful. It's an awful thought and an awful prospect. So I think people start their own family, and that seems to be the natural way to deal, or the natural way to continue. You lose your folks and you've started your own family, then you carry on and raise your own kids, and you have your husband or your wife or your partner or whatever, and that's how you continue. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think that the conventional definitions, like historically, of what marriage is and the American life, I still think that's very subjective. I think it is healthy to find someone, though. But I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't matter who or what your preferences are. I do think it's helpful, though, to find a one person that you rely on the most. And I think marriage is just it's a day and a way to recognize a commitment that you've made to somebody. And I think it's more about honoring what you've been through. And in the case of Rachel and I think it would have been a day that honored all the things that we had made it through. Because there's definitely levels to love, and I think I don't think there's an end. I don't think you can cap off. And I used to feel, there was days where I'd feel like, God, I love this girl, and I don't think it gets any better than this. And I've found the peak, like if we had just a good day or something, or like riding in the car with her, sitting out on the front porch, one of the apartments that we lived in, or in Hadley, waking up next to her. A lot of times I would feel like it couldn't get any better, and it really does something for your day. Like waking up and having coffee with Rachel and having a good morning with her happened often. And it just like really sets your day up. It makes like everything more manageable. Your job, it makes you a better employee. It just makes you feel better, more capable, when you have a morning and a person like that in your life. So, being with her for 13 years, and one of my biggest fears is losing my parents. And I had managed to, I found like a healthy way to deal with that fear. And it was through Rachel and what we had. That's how I managed it. So I think losing Rachel it's just, I don't know. She was 34. I think she was too young. Like, I don't want to complain about it. because I'm realizing more and more that people do lose their spouse earlier than what you typically consider to be a full life. But 33 is just really young to be diagnosed. 34, she died, and you're just starting your life, so it's too young. It's too young, and it just makes it's made some of the fears that that I had thought that I felt like I had conquered. It's sort of reopened some of those. It like, it's like a case closed sort of thing. Like, this is how I'm going to deal with this, and this is how I'm going to make peace with this. And was knowing I had Rachel. It's like it reopens that case. Like the plan you had to deal with pain, inevitable pain, is suddenly gone. So you just have to make a new plan. Starting over seems, it's just like, thinking about starting over, it seems impossible, because it feels like me and Rachel, God, we got through so many things. Back to the level thing, it's like, you'd wake up and you'd feel like, God, this is the best it gets. I don't think I could love anybody more than I love her. And I was always proven wrong. I was always shown that there's another level, higher level, a deeper level, a more profound level of, I think love is a very small word for just an endless. That word is defined endlessly. I don't think there's any language, really. I don't think there's a language that can properly describe, fully encapsulate what, all the different things when you really love someone. There's infatuation in the beginning, and sexual attraction. Sometimes that's what drives the initial relationship. Obviously, physical attraction is huge, like in the beginning, but I was attracted to her in so many more ways. Like, I think you stay and stick around with someone and allow yourself to rely on that person for so many things, because that's happens if the more you get to know them, the more you're attracted to them. And certainly that's what happened with Rachel. And, we were really close, just humor and the whole bit. I mean, I could really go deep into it, but I have so many times. I'm not going to do that again, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough because when this illness, it can bring people very, very close, much closer. It can, it's a test. It can be a test as far as relationship goes. And I've heard about people leaving their spouse or their person when they get sick, which just, I can't believe that anyone would ever do that, but I have heard that happening on occasion, because I do think it's a test of your will. It's a test of how much you care about the person. It's a test of where your priorities stand. And in our case, it just made us, I felt like it made us much closer. Yeah. And so it's like a double-edged sword. We were already very close. Like, we had been through the ringer. Like, when most people would have given up in a relationship, we didn't. And I think that's how you find those next level connections, is by sticking things out. There were times where I felt like